instead, like, show your great PM skills, show your ability to ask great pointed questions, to understand, the product use cases more. What's the unique value add?
All right, hey everyone, this is another web series of DPP, Daily Product Prep, where we help product managers find the jobs that they love. We do a lot of mock interviews. We do interviews with product hiring managers as well as product talent partners. And we actually have one today. We have the amazing Rumiko, which is the former head of recruitment over at SensorTower, which is a mobile analytics company, as well as the founder of a new startup, which is Kimaru Talent, which helps founders and also new startups find amazing talent for their business and their dreams as well. So very glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Let's start off with kind of a bit about your background. You've worked a lot in the mobile industry space, so just like tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, high level overview. I am Rumiko, and I've been doing recruiting for San Francisco Bay Area startups for the last 7 years. And in the last 5 years, I've been focused very much on the mobile app ecosystem. So hiring for mobile first companies, a lot of mobile gaming companies, but also hiring for different tech companies that support the mobile app ecosystem, whether it be attribution or market research like Sensor Tower. Yeah, so it's a high level overview, and I've always focused on recruiting more across product and the business go-to-market side rather than engineering recruitment.
That's awesome. And what are you doing with your startup right now?
Yeah, so Kimaru Talent is focused on recruiting for the mobile app ecosystem. So again, mobile first companies, but also tech companies that support the ecosystem. And we are hiring for both leadership positions, but also, product teams and marketing, user acquisition teams to help scale those companies.
That's awesome. And I actually love the fact that you started this only a few months ago, like in pretty much is a global pandemic, which I would imagine would be insanely risky. But it seems like everything is doing well, and there's a lot of great talent out there already. So let's jump right into it. Kind of talking about your mobile experience. What are some of the hiring managers that are looking for mobile PMs? What are they looking for that's different from a regular PM, especially now that gaming is a huge industry, specifically because of COVID? What are the differences between the two?
Well, I guess as you might expect, but for product management roles within mobile, it requires so much deep knowledge about the mobile app ecosystem and the mobile app development lifecycle. So, finding great technical product managers is already a big challenge, right? Finding people that are analytical and they have high technical aptitude, but they're strong with communication skills to work cross-functionally and, lay out the product roadmaps and articulate those. So it's already a difficult search always to find great product managers. But now when you start looking for mobile product managers, the pool is even smaller. So now you're looking for people that have all those skills I just listed, but also have that mobile industry knowledge, which it can range from user acquisition and retention and engagement and have a strong handle on how that works to, okay, how are we going to monetize our users? A lot of these apps out there today are free. So how are we going to monetize? Where do we start for product strategy? Do competitive research, these kinds of things. So there's just such a wide range of things to cover as a mobile product manager, and that you need to be thus well-versed about. So I'd say that's one of the big challenges and what mobile PM hiring managers are often focused on looking for.
And because you find it so rare, like I can't imagine someone understanding all of that straight out of school. Where do you find that most people make the transition to a mobile PM? Is it they're originally a PM and they moved into that space, or they came straight from school? Maybe that is the case. Where do you kind of find where most of them get their start?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I think that what I see most often are people who have worked in the mobile industry already on the user acquisition side or on the monetization side, or if it's a gaming company, maybe they've been a games analyst for some time and they're already crunching numbers about how a certain app is performing. And then they will transition into product manager roles. So I think that's what we see most commonly as the mobile industry continues to mature.
And speaking about like maturing of the mobile industry, there's a lot of things that have changed and shifted in the past few months. I'm kind of wondering, are there things that you've been seeing in the 2020 hiring trends when it comes to mobile PMs or just product managers in general? So much has changed. So I'm curious, have you seen things that have been happening in the market?
I don't know if there's anything particularly different right now, but I think this year has been a great reminder of just how quickly the mobile app ecosystem is evolving and how quickly industry trends change, like the type of data that you can gather as a developer, that all changes, or best practices for user acquisition, or what the app store looks like and what your app store strategy should be. Like there's just been so much constant change. So I think that there's just this heightened awareness on, okay, if we're hiring a mobile PM, we really need someone that comes from this mobile ecosystem, has the colleagues and network to like keep in touch and on top of these industry trends.
And has there been a shift between a need for startups to ask for more business PMs because there's so much changing, or more of a technical PM to actually build these products?
No, that's a great question. I would say both. We still see both a lot, because the monetization, retention, engagement side plays such a big role for mobile app businesses. But having that technical knowledge is always really helpful too. So maybe in the mobile gaming ecosystem, I see more of the former, of the more business PM. And then for SaaS companies that are supporting the mobile app ecosystem, I see more of those tech PMs.
That makes a lot more sense. And I think one interesting thing is you kind of have a lot of experience in the mobile space, but also broadly. There's also differentiation between how hiring needs change from startup to startup, and specifically talking about the sizes from Series A to Series B to Series C, even seed, very, very different. You've kind of worked at multiple different startups from different sizes. And I'm kind of curious, like, how does hiring needs change? Because I think a lot of people from Daily Product Prep really want to know about, if I'm applying for a Series A company, what are they looking from a product manager that's different from someone that is hiring for a Series C company?
Okay. Yeah. So if you're at an earlier stage company, like a seed or Series A company, you're going to have to wear so many hats. You're going to have to get pretty scrappy, be resourceful, and you're going to find yourself having to learn a lot of different areas, that are within the product management world that maybe you didn't have experience with before. So I guess, for example, if I talk to a product manager that's at a larger company like Microsoft, let's say, they are used to having allocated, team of engineers, UI, UX, and product teams to work with, a data analytics team to work with, marketing team to lean on, and everyone can collaborate well together. And then you add like the actual monetary resources or backing that's available at those larger companies. Then you compare that to PMs at earlier stage companies where maybe they're one of the first PMs getting hired. So you have to be willing to kind of think about, okay, what is the role of a PM here? How are we going to integrate into this business strategy? Okay, I need an analyst. There's one analyst that's supporting all these different teams. When can I get that person's time? Or, okay, there's not a dedicated UI UX designer hired yet at the startup, which is pretty common. So it's like, okay, you have to be able to wear the designer hat as well at times. So a lot more scrappiness, I guess, in that sense. But I think at the same time, that's what makes the role really fun too, is that you get to kind of dip your hands in so many different areas of development.
And it seems like as a PM, you're definitely being more a journalist overall. You need to have that understanding. But specifically at the smaller startups, you kind of need to be super scrappy and need to do the designing work if it needs to be done. You need to do the wireframe. Exactly. And it gets more specialized at the higher levels. So I guess depending on like the different, where your areas of expertise is, you can kind of like target either, larger companies or smaller companies. Is there anything that you've heard or know from kind of like the FAANG companies. So Facebook, Amazon, Google, about how they hire PMs and how it's different from, say, working at, one of the smaller startups, like kind of coming out of Y Combinator or something like that.
Yeah. So the differences in the role of PMs, you said?
Exactly, because there's been a lot of conversation around enterprise, like
Yeah.
startups being very different. So I'm curious if you
Yeah.
have heard anything about that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've had some like, conversations with PMs that had been in the startup world primarily and have
Hmm.
recently joined larger companies. And one of the things that I often hear is that, all great companies, but maybe the breadth of work that they get to do starts to get more limited. And so, maybe at Facebook, you're working on this one feature within, one of the products that they've just decided to start developing. And like, you're really focused on that niche feature. And so I've heard feedback that sometimes people realize, okay, that's not really for them. And they like being able to be at a kind of leaner startup where they're not just working on that one feature, but they're getting to
Hmm.
work on, the bigger picture kind of product as well and think about all the various different features. But it really comes down to preference, I guess. I've also heard people that love, being at those larger companies and being able to get so sophisticated and data driven about their approach to product management.
Hmm. I guess that's where also like the story about how Google, they used to do like 40 shades of color experiments just on like the CTA buttons. And it just goes to like that small change could have a huge impact, but it
Yeah,
just might be the cup of tea for everyone else. Um,
exactly. Yeah, I heard talk to a data scientist that was at Facebook and was working on like the project of figuring out what shade of blue to use. We just did so much work on that, and there's data science behind it, and yeah, it's fascinating.
It's interesting. And when it comes to like red flags and like mistakes, like from your position of people, as someone that's actually hired PMs, what are some of the most common red flags or common mistakes that a lot of product managers that are interviewing make?
Okay, I would say one is just when you're interviewing for a PM position, you're likely talking to someone who's been working on that product for months, if not years. So
Mm,
they're an expert about the product and they don't expect you to be, an expert all of a sudden on it. So, you know, I would say I see people who try and kind of, you know, come off as the expert in the product and they're like, hey, I've done this research, like I can imagine you guys are facing this kind of challenge, and they kind of come on strong with a lot of assumptions. And instead of doing that, like, don't worry about it, you don't have to be the product expert. Instead, like, show your great PM skills, show your ability to ask great pointed questions, to understand the product use cases more. What's the unique value add? What are their target customers? What challenges have they been facing historically?
mm,
What kind of resources will be on the project or product that you work on? Like, ask those kind of clarifying questions. And I think that ends up, really impressing a hiring manager in that they feel like, wow, okay, they're already showing these great PM skills. Um,
mm.
so I'd say that's one. Like, just don't stress on being the expert or trying to feel like you have to pretend to peacock and be the expert. Just show those great PM skills. Um, and then with that said, I would say throughout the interview process, try and show that you can quickly learn, though, about the product and about the industry that the company operates in. So, for instance, in the past, we at Sensor Tower, so they're a mobile app intelligence startup. So it's a SaaS company, though. So we look for technical PMs that have worked on SaaS products, but have a lot of mobile industry knowledge. And that can be
Mm.
a little bit hard to find. So we made it a point to, interview SaaS technical PMs, but try and gauge how quickly they were understanding the mobile app economy, how quickly or how excited they were to talk about the mobile app ecosystem. So, throughout the process, if you can show that you're learning about the ecosystem already that the employer operates in, I think that quickly gives the hiring manager confidence that, you're a great technical SaaS PM, don't have the mobile industry knowledge, but you've showed that you can learn it.
And it's actually great because in our previous like web series,
Yeah,
one of the talent partners I was talking to actually mentioned that a lot of times they don't show the motivators of how they got to where they were. And that story about, themselves, whether they went to the space and they're moving to a new space, while they don't know everything, they want to learn. And they show that
yeah.
type of like passion. They show the type of like, that like hunger to like learn more. And I was actually talking to one of the Netflix senior PMs, and he talked about how humility is a huge thing that a lot of product managers learn very quickly at Netflix, which is like, you're not the expert. The engineer is going to be better at you. The engineering lead is going to know more than you, but it's you to
Right.
understand where do you kind of push, where do you put your foot down, but at the same time, where do you just ask questions and be like, you can take this on and you take ownership on this.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people show that through interviews.
That's a really great point. Humility is a great way to put it. Like being able to work with all these different specialized teams and
Hmm.
trust that they're the experts in that field and you're there to be a partner and kind of tie it all together.
And I want to double down actually on a point you made, where is that you said that there may be people that are moving in from one PM space into another industry space, and mobile industry experience is very rare and hard to find. Say that someone had 30, 60 days to kind of prepare for a PM interview,
Yeah.
right? What are the things that they can do to really make sure that they're well equipped for that? Whether that's doing technical research or whether that's interview prep, where do you think they should double down on?
Yeah. I think on the interview prep front, sign up for daily product prep. Uh, no, but really, like, try going through different exercises that require to think about various industries and product challenges, and whether it be through daily product prep or just organic conversations with friends, like you know whether you have product manager friends or not. I think all of us are, for instance, consumers of Netflix and of Hulu, so maybe you can have some conversations about, okay, what would you do to improve Netflix? Is there a new feature
Hmm.
that you want to add? Or how would you want to change the onboarding experience of a certain game that you've recently just, downloaded? Like, talking about products and topics that you're truly excited about and interested in, I think is a great way to just practice your ability to like talk through new feature ideas, maybe even spec out a product roadmap, for some of
Hmm.
those topics. Just, getting comfortable, I guess, in articulating these sorts of topics.
So first off, I'll say we did not pay for that advertising or that plug at all. So everyone's looking for that. Secondly, I'm actually very curious, and I want to know like the scoop on this. But do recruiters that look for candidates, do they actually go and look at blogs and look at articles that you post on LinkedIn, or even like your tweets as well? Is that a place where you can actually put your thoughts and put out, like for example, design a product question or some type of presentation that way? Is that useful for someone that's applying for a PM position?
So going through those kinds of threads and reading about to learn more about the employer, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess it was on the other side. So do you actually read into, the interviewers like blogs and articles that they've written
Oh
or
yeah.
like the tweets that they've done? Is that something that people should invest more into?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for instance, when we're looking for someone to work in the mobile gaming ecosystem and we're looking for analyst, let's
Mm,
say, like maybe someone on their LinkedIn, it shows that they're a really strong analyst, but there's nothing really that says they're excited about the mobile gaming industry, you know, or, fitness or meditation or yoga, and so then by the person, the candidate, showing what their interests are and having that on a blog or Twitter or whatever it may be, I think that gets the recruiter themselves more excited too to reach out and be like,
mm.
hey, I saw that you've never worked in gaming, but you're an awesome analyst and it seems like you're interested in gaming. Saw you've been playing a lot of PUBG, or
Mm.
something like that. And
Yeah.
they could be like, okay, so you interested in this game analyst position?
Ah, interesting. It's like a conversation starter that you can at least start something with a potential
Yeah.
candidate.
Yeah,
And
and like we've
mm,
had searches like that in the past where, maybe we're hiring for more of like a mindfulness meditation app and
mm,
looking for a growth PM for that app. like, you know, ideally the founders want to find someone who is really passionate about mindfulness and meditation already naturally in their daily life. So then how can we go and find that kind of interest? It has to be, you know, shared by that person somewhere.
Mm. And I'll kind of end it off with one last question.
Yeah.
So with kind of all these conversations that you have with both the founders of like these startups, as well as like a lot of product manager, hiring managers, what are some of the secrets or some of the things that you'd like product managers that are applying for these positions to know? Whether that is a tip, whether that's a trick, or just a mindset that people that are hiring for have, that you can kind of provide to our viewers.
Okay, maybe this could be applied to really all candidates across all positions
Hmm.
in a way, but I think a lot of people get focused on applying for so many different companies that the interviewers themselves start to feel like, you know, they're not that special. But
Mm.
interviewers and companies want to feel like that candidate is committed to joining this company. They're gung ho excited, right? Like they don't want to feel like, I mean, you're one of 10 different options, so we'll just see where this goes, kind of thing. So even if you are applying to many different places, like if you're really truly excited about one opportunity, do everything that you can to show it. And so, you know, for instance, download free demos of the product for the company you're interviewing at, or, you know, try and reach out to some of the customers if there's logos on customer logos on the company's website. Like
Hmm.
maybe call LinkedIn and see if you have any connections, first degree or second degree, and get in touch with those customers and learn about, you know, why they think the product is valuable. Like go the extra 9 yards, you know, and I think that really goes a far way. Like enthusiasm for a role in a company is huge.
Have you found like, are there any stories or any things that come to mind of candidates that have done that for positions that you've been hiring for?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, we had someone who has been doing his own podcasts for the gaming industry and is talking about
Mm.
the like trends in gaming across mobile, console, and all the platforms. But he was still about to graduate from college and was really excited about getting a job in that field. And so I stumbled upon his podcast and I was really impressed by all that he was doing. He was basically doing what we would want him to do on the job for free as a passion project. So even though we didn't have a position open at that time, we reached out, we got in touch. Our co-founders were so excited and we were able to, you know, create a position for him basically. So
Wow, that's crazy.
yes, I guess, I mean, it's not an example of this person specifically trying to come to one company, but just a way of, you know, how much it helps to kind of put it out there, what you are passionate about.
Because you'll attract the right people that will seek you out and then give you a
Yeah.
position that you actually love. And I think you bring up a great point where a lot of people think of always like, am I the right technical fit? Am I the right role fit? And too often the deciding factor is like the cultural fit. Like, is this person I want to work with? And someone is
Yeah.
going to be passionate that I'm going to be excited to work with and progress together. Um,
Mhm.
so like, I'm super excited that you're like bring that as well. That's kind of comes up on like our time. Thank you again so much for, you know, the interesting tips and also the tricks that you've seen. I think your knowledge about the mobile industry is like very interesting. I've come personally from more of a SaaS and marketplace model, so it's like been a
Yeah.
joy learning about what happens in gaming and the requirements there. Before we kind of like head off, is there anything that you want to like call out? Like where can people follow you? Where can people find you? And where you can keep up to date with Kimaru Talent?
Yeah. Oh, we're just getting things going at Kimaru Talent, but you can find us on LinkedIn. It's Kimaru Talent. So give us a follow there. We'll have tons more content coming up in the coming months.